Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining on this take two of this webinar. We had some technical difficulties last week, so I hope that everyone can hear me well today. Thank you for joining. I am your host, Jean-Christian Andoni, CEO and founder of Symbiosis Infinity Group, and we are here today to discuss circularity around supply chains. We have around 130 attendees today, or people having registered. Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us today. And please drop us a comment in the comment section, whoever is joining, wherever you're joining from. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop a line in the comment section. And if we cannot answer you, we'll take that after the show. So let us dive into today's purpose and today's topic, which is circularity around supply chains and the role of Africa within this framework. So first of all, would like to bring a little bit of an agenda. So the theme of today is circularity in African supply chains. What are the opportunities for global impact? And we are here created this event by Symbiosis Infinity Group. So a quick agenda for us today is why circularity matters, what is Africa's strategic role, what is the current landscape and opportunities, what industries and case studies are we going to dive in, the type of partnership models, next steps, and some Q&A. Before we begin, I'd just like to give a little brief introduction about who we are in Symbiosis Infinity Group. We are a consulting firm, a global consulting firm, and we empower business to grow through circular and conscious, globally connected supply chains and ethical partnerships. Our purpose, why do we exist, is to create symbiotic prosperity where economic performance, environmental responsibility, and community impact reinforce each other. Our vision is very simple. We want to create a world where supply chains and partnerships are not extractive, but regenerative, resilient, and inclusive. How do we do this? We design and activate circular supply chain strategy. We connect global companies with high potential ecosystems in Africa. We also help transform underutilized resources into scalable business opportunities. And we facilitate partnerships that deliver long-term shared value. We are part of Conscious Business Journey, which is the largest conscious business consultant in the world with 1,300 plus consultants and practitioners. And we have at our disposal an active communities of leaders, CEOs, and advisors that connect us globally across different industries in order to accelerate the shift towards more responsible and regenerative business models. Let us dive into today's topic. But first, I want to clarify and give a meaning to the word circularity. So the word circularity comes from the Latin root circulus, which means a circle or ring. And this comes from circus, meaning ring, circle, or arena. When we add et, which is the suffix from Latin etas, it's used to form nouns that indicate a state, quality, or condition. So circularity literally means the state or quality of being circular. And today we're going to dive in how this applies to our supply chain and business processes. Why circularity matters? Well, first of all, circularity helps unlocks new profit pools from waste and underutilized resources. And this is a very important point. It, of course, as well de-risks supply chains against volatility and disruption. And we all know that today with the different conflicts that are happening in the world, supply chains are at risk and highly volatile. Implementing circularity in your supply chain helps you de-risk that. Of course, it delivers measurable impact aligned with ESG and stakeholder expectations. And this is very important in a world where today a lot of investors and shareholders and different partners look at ESG as a matrix in order to either engage in business relation or invest in one particular company. Another major advantage of circularity in your supply chain, it helps you secure long-term competitive advantage in evolving global markets. And of course, it creates valuable long-term impact for all stakeholders. So Today, we've decided to take Africa as a strategic role because Africa has been on the forefront of different models and a lot of industrial growth over the past 10 years. But still, there is very large value loss in the way things are implemented and done between Africa and the rest of the world. So, what does Africa has to offer? First is as an abundant and untapped resources with high circular value potential. And here we're going to dive into one very particular case, which is the cocoa bean pod. Africa is close to the key global markets like Europe, Middle East, Asia, and North America. It has a rapidly evolving industrial base and a growing population of bright and smart entrepreneurs that really enables local value creation. It has, of course, a cost competitive ecosystem with strong margin potential, and there is a first mover advantage regarding early stage circularity adoption. What is the symbiotic model that Africa can offer globally? As we said, it offers high potential resource and production base, while developed markets can provide capital, technology, and global distribution access. Circular supply chain connecting local value creation with global demand. So here we see a strong correlation and symbiotic relationship between the local value creation and the global demand, because it really can create a symbiotic synergy that can help both sides. Shared value creation through aligned economic, environmental, and social outcome. And we, as SIG, we are the orchestration layer, enabling partnerships and deal flow between African countries and developed markets. So, what are the current value loss, as we talked about a little bit earlier? First of all, there is a big value loss in the raw materials that are exported without local transformation, capturing only a fraction of the potential value. There is a lot of numerous agricultural and industrial byproducts that are left underutilized, often treated as waste, and that still have a lot of commercial and industrial applications. There is an issue with fragmented supply chains that reduce traceability and coordination across stakeholders. And there's a big loss of opportunity for secondary revenue streams from circular valorization of materials. So here we have identified these 4 current value loss. However, there are many more, but these are the 4, I would say, losses that we see can be overcome and changed if we implement circularity within the supply chain. Here, what are the benefits for the companies? Because, of course, there needs to be some benefit for companies to implement this circular supply chains models between Africa and the rest of the world. Well, first, it enables a secured and diversified resilient supply chain. Second, it reduces cost and input volatility through circular sourcing and local valorization. Third, strengthen ESG performance with measurable real-world impact in supply networks. Fourth, unlock access to new resources streams from Africa's underutilized byproducts, and it builds a long-term competitive advantage through early positioning in circular global trade. So here we have a lot of different key comparative advantage to implement circularity in supply chains. What are the industries that should be in focus? This is a very important point because not all verticals can benefit the most from this circularity between African countries, African economies, suppliers, different resources, and the rest of the world. So first is the cocoa and agricultural commodities with a valorization of shells, pods, and byproducts into new revenue stream. And we're going to go through a case study specifically around the cocoa bean pod, which is a very interesting case because so far we traditionally know that the cocoa traders and cocoa farmers sell their beans, but there's a lot more to the cocoa fruit than just the beans. Second is agricultural waste streams. So in order to be able to have a transformation of biomass into energy inputs or materials at a given time where the prices of fossil fuel energy is very volatile, it is very important that we look into the different available resources in order to create sustainable biomass to produce energy. And here, Africa has a lot of untapped potential in this vertical. Food processing side stream. Now, this might be one of the biggest verticals where we can really see a comparative advantage in dealing in the circularity in the supply chain between Africa and the rest of the world. And that would help convert residuals into high-value ingredients and extracts, which is already done in a way through the different extraction of different substances and different fruits and biomass available in Africa. There's so much more that can be done. Fourth is forestry and plant-based resources with the sustainable use of fibers and natural materials. And last but not least, and this is also a big topic, packaging and materials innovation. We can have a shift towards circular biodegradable alternatives and global supply chain. So let's dive into the snapshot case of today, which is the cocoa bean pods valorization. So for whoever doesn't know what the oh, sorry, a little technical hiccup here again. We're very sorry. Here we go. There we go. Back here. So let me take off this logo here. Here we go. So for whoever doesn't know what the cocoa bean pod is, it is the basically small pod that is around the bean. And here we've analyzed that there's a large volumes of cocoa bean pods generated at harvest or at processing that are often discarded or underutilized not only at farm level, but within the cocoa processing industry as well. The opportunity is really here. The cocoa bean pods contain significant amount of biomass, fiber, and nutrients suitable for multiple downstream applications. The solution is quite simple. It is the collection and pre-processing systems that enable the transformation of cocoa bean pods into usable raw material streams, unlocking values from the full fruit. And this is what we're looking at here. The pod is just one aspect, but you also have the husk, which is the total shell around the cocoa fruit, and also the pulp that has many different commercial and industrial applications. As we're just talking about applications, the potential use is very numerous. It can be used in compost, soil regeneration, bioenergy production, animal feed inputs, and food processing industries. The impact that we can have, and this is very important to measure, it's of course have a diversification and increase in farmers' income, a reduced agricultural waste, and the creation of new circular value chain. So what are the industries that are in focus? Well, there is the food and beverage industries, because cocoa bean pods can be processed to extract dietary fibers, natural sugars, and bioactive compounds that are used in bakery products, beverages, and functional food reformulations. Second is the nutraceutical and functional ingredient. Bean pods are a source of polyphenols, flavonoids, and other bioactive compounds that can be refined into supplements and health-focused functional ingredients. Third is the sustainable packaging, which is an emerging vertical where fibers from the cocoa bean pods can be developed into biodegradable packaging materials and molded fiber products. Another very promising sector that is being researched and it's in development is the bean pod biomass can be converted into bioenergy, biochar, and other renewable fuels. And this, on the long term, can represent a total game changer when it comes to biofuels. Last but not least, the pods can be used for compost, soil conditioning, mulching, and in some cases treated as animal feed inputs. So as you can see, there is a lot of different industrial and commercial applications for a product that is currently clearly underutilized, and that should be part of the circular value chain of the cocoa industry. And this is what we are meant to build at Symbiosis Infinity Group with our local partners in Cameroon and any other countries in Africa that actually supplies cocoa bean pods, yes. So what kind of symbiotic partnerships we can create around this? Well, first, there's a circular supply chain partnerships that connects producers, processors, and markets in a closed loop systems. What we're really looking at on the long term is the valorization at source models that enable local transformation of the byproducts before export, because this is where we add much more value to the local communities, local economies, and bring, of course, more circularity into the loop. We are always advising and pushing for long-term offtake agreements to secure demand for circular and secondary raw materials. What we aim at creating, and this is a partnership model that's very interesting, is the joint venture to create joint venture processing hubs between cooperatives, farmers, impact funds, and also industrial companies that can join together to really create processing hub at source to be as close as possible to the regions of productions. And this creates, of course, a multi-stakeholder ecosystem that align farmers, industry players, and investors around a shared value creation. Now, how do we work with our partners in this regard? Well, we help to identify this type of circular opportunities across the supply chains and industrial ecosystems. We map and connect stakeholders from source regions to global buyers and global companies. And we help to design structured partnership models, including offtake, joint ventures, and sourcing agreements. We enable execution on the ground through local partnerships and operational coordination. And here at SIG, we have several partners in different African countries. And I would like to give a big shout out to Linda and the team at Roots and Suits and Power, who've been of great support and great help in building all these wonderful ecosystems. And we, of course, support to scale up and expand into new markets and additional value streams. So what we invite to do all together is to co-create value together, not only for farmers and local producers to have a higher income through byproduct valorization and direct market access, but also to empower local communities, job creation, skills development, and local industrial activity. For our industrial partners, this creates, of course, new revenue streams, cost efficiency, and diversified sourcing, which is an important part. For global buyers, a more resilient, transparent, and ESG-aligned supply chain. And for the people that co-invest with us and our ecosystem partners, it creates scalable circular models with measurable financial and impact returns. Why act now? It is very important to start implementing circularity in supply chains as soon as possible, because first of all, the supply chain volatility is increasing, making resilient sourcing a strategic priority. Second of all, as all the regulatory and ESG pressure is accelerating, so it requires measurable sustainability action, and here supply chain are a real tool in order to increase your ESG scoring, which is a very important part of every business nowadays. The circular economy advantage is quite time sensitive, with the first movers capturing the best opportunities. And this is why at Symbiosis Infinity Group, we always identify with our partners and the best opportunities where we can be, if not the first mover, at least part of the pool of first movers in one particular area. We have an untapped value in African supply chain that is still accessible, but becoming more and more competitive. And the capital is shifting towards sustainable models, rewarding companies that act early and decisively. So what's next? What we encourage you to do is to join our future deep dives, the series of webinars. This is just the first one. We encourage you to join us in the future sessions, to connect with us on LinkedIn in order for to have an exchange and find ways to support you to bring circularity within your supply chains and different processes. Connect with us simply on LinkedIn, through our website, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Jean-Christian Mindoni, for a strategic conversation on how we can create value together. We can initiate a supply chain assessment with you to identify immediate circular value opportunities and explore partnership opportunities in circular supply chains across key African sectors. And what we are doing at the moment is that we are driving early pilot projects to shape the future of circular global trade, specifically in the cocoa industry. So we invite you to connect and to really support the circular initiatives between Africa and the rest of the world. Circularity is something that should be more than just a buzzword. It needs to be practical. It needs to be deeply rooted in creating not only value for your company, value for your supply chain, but also impact for all stakeholders involved in this wonderful journey that really provides not only profitability, but also impact. I thank you very much for your attention today, for the people who join, and for the people that will watch this replay. We will keep you posted on future episodes. We'll try to to publish something every 2 weeks in order to inform you about how we can help you and how circularity can help your business grow in an ethical way. Thank you, and have a great day, everyone.